This is Renee Geyer plugging a new album, Swing, on Noise 11.
And we welcome into noise11.com Renee Geyer to talk about an amazing new record. It is called Swing. Hello, Renee.
Hello.
And this is really a labour of love, isn't it?
It is. I mean, all my albums are I'm in love with them at the time that I make them, but this one is a little bit special because it's something I've been toying with for a few years to do a big band sort of record.
A big band record, a swing record. I've used the word jazz in there. Sort of.
Hey, everyone else does.
Yeah.
So I've been everything from anything under the R&B canopy is what I mean. I'm on jazz festivals, blues festivals, rock festivals. Whatever. If they want me to be that, then I'm that. But I keep just doing my music, and it seems to. If I do something with a reggae feel, then I'm reggae. I've turned reggae. Or if I do something with a bit of a swing thing, then it's she's a jazz singer. So whatever I am, as long as I am around, that's and keep making music. So.
Tell me about the origin of the idea for the swing record and then how you went about researching and sourcing the songs.
Well, the actual Bible of my life with regards to anything big band oriented is Count Basie at the Sands with Frank Sinatra. And I'm sure people out there who know that record will know why it's like a Bible. Anyone, including, I guess, Bublé, anyone that's going to attack that genre has to have that somewhere in their head as a stepping stone, because it is the quintessential big band album. Sinatra singing all those great classics with Count Basie, one of the greatest, apart from Duke Ellington, the greatest arrangers and, band leaders of all time. So that's been a favourite record of mine since I was a teenager. And so all through my career, there's always been that sort of thing of when I've heard different people do big band things, but no women, especially no women in Australia. But, Ella has sat in with people and, Sarah Vaughan and all that. I've just always toyed with it, but I've never considered it that it would happen, that I would end up doing it. Until about a year ago, I just started thinking, I'd wake up in the middle of the night with ideas for horn lines in my head, I'm just like, and no tape next to me. I decided to get a tape and put it next to the bed, and I'm lucky enough that I work with musicians who are so intuitive and so great, and they know I don't read or write music, but they understand me. Only great musicians can deal with an artist like that because they know what they're talking about. And luckily, my co-producer, Paul Williamson, the saxophone player, is one of those people who just instinctively knows what I mean when I try to explain something, even though I can't explain it musically. I mean, he'll say bar 39 to the musos, and I'll go, the bit where it goes up and then it comes down, and, or the second verse, So him, and then during the project we sort of adopted into the production team Dave Palmer, the trombone player, because he was so helpful, and Ross Cockle, the great engineer, who ended up mastering it. Anyway, I had been toying with the idea, and when I brought it up to Paul Williamson, that's when it sort of started to become a reality, and anybody I would tell would just go, yeah, whatever, sure, one day. Until we finally, I proposed it. I told a lawyer and a record company, Robert Rigby from Ambition Entertainment, heard about it and came on board immediately. And after a few chats, I believed he had faith in me and the project and would let me do what I wanted to do. And so we went with him. He's basically new, you know. He used to, I think he's done stuff with Warner's before in the past, but he's kind of a little bit on a comeback sort of thing. So Ambition is distributed by, now it's EMI and Universal. I can't keep up with all the mergers and everything. So it's a good team, and look what they've done. They've got Russell Morris,
which you
Robert
contributed
Rigby.
to.
Well, at that time, Russell didn't know, I didn't know, and Russell didn't know that we were both going to be on the same label. I didn't know who Russell's label was, and he just asked me as a favour, so I did it just as a favour. And so that's serendipity as well. It's just the way it happened and it was meant to be, you know. Nobody knew that was going to lead to anything else. And it didn't, but it just so happens that while he's out there doing that, and that's like Russell's biggest record of his life.
First top 10
It's
album
the top,
ever.
I mean, you know, and, you know, this guy's been in the business nearly 50 years, you know, so it's just and that's, I think, attributed a lot to Robert Rigby and the way he organises everything, and he's a stickler for doing things properly. Him and his partner Ian at Ambition, and they're just a really good team, and they know if they take someone on, they really do the right thing. So I was in good hands, and if Russell was a project that Robert loved, that he was just going to put out, and this one's a bit of a pet for him. Imagine golly, you know. I mean, we hope to get to where Russell gets, you know, maybe even a little bit quicker. You never know, but I think it's extraordinary for Russell that it's built because of word of mouth. That's how you build things so slowly, because people buy it, tell other people, and then they go and get it. That's how something stays around a long time. You know, it's a sinker when it comes in at number one and then disappears. So I think we've got the right people, and that's how the whole thing sort of happened.
And the right songs too. Let's fill people in on the songs that you've done on this, because you know it's a marvellous collection of songs.
Well, before anything, I should say, because there were a lot of people that wrote into my website that were a bit not thrilled with the fact that I redid Say I Love You. First of all, there's been this rumour going around for years now that I hate Say I Love You. Now, I don't think I've ever sung a song that I hate. I won't record a song that I hate. If anything, because it became so big, I was getting tired of doing it all the time at the time, but never have I recorded a song that I hate. I mean, why would I do that? You know, I have no reason to. No one's telling me with a whip to sing a song. So what we wanted to do is tie this in with my general thing, and Say I Love You and Man's World pretty much sum it up. Man's World ends all my shows, so we thought that those two things with the horns, and I do Say I Love You more in a South American style than the reggae that it exists now. So that's the reason for that. So I'll settle that.
And interesting that you end your show with the song that basically started the career.
Man's World. Man's World, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but yeah, it's the one that is most recognisable for me. I mean, a lot of people think that James Brown covered it off me, which I think is hilarious, because
we'll just let them think
he's
that.
the definite king of, you know, whether he's dead or alive.
You know that old saying, never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
I don't go along with that, but anyway,
yeah. Well, the album opens with "Baby Please Don't Go,"
which we were influenced by Mama Maybelle, her version, because I know them did it, you know, with Van Morrison, and AC/DC have done it, and I know John Williams or Joe Williams wrote it and did it, but we heard Mama Maybelle do it like that. Oh my God! So ours is a little tougher, like her. We don't ever copy things, but we were influenced by her version.
And did you go back and listen to her version?
Of course, well, that's the version I heard to make me want to go, I want to do that song. So that's the extent of the listening to it, to make sure we get the chords and all that sort of stuff down, and then it goes away. We don't listen to it at the studio to make sure it's exactly the right. We just have it, and then we do our version of it. Even if it means there's some mistakes in it, it's still our version.
I Got Rhythm's a totally different song to Baby Please Don't Go.
Yeah, when people see I Got Rhythm, because it seems such a, you know, Mary Had a Little Lamb sort of type song, I Got Rhythm. The reason for wanting to do that song is that I already, as Paul Williamson will attest to, I already had ideas for horn lines in that song before I even wanted to sing it. I knew how, a sort of vague version of what I wanted the horns to do in it. And it started from that, and then the singing of it went over that. So it's if it hadn't been played by those particular 13 horns and that rhythm section, it could have sounded incredibly busy and messy. But because it's so beautifully written and even if I say so myself, really good lines and things like that, it works. It just works for some reason.
And I Want to Be Around is probably the least known song.
It's Tony Bennett, and it's probably the least known of his and in general of songs of that era. But it's kind of a sweet revenge song. It's like, I want to be around to see what happens when somebody does what you did to me, to you. And that's basically what it's about.
It's an interesting choice. Was it an old favourite of yours?
No, Paul Williamson played it to me, Tony Bennett's version, and I decided from that minute when he played it to me, he asked me would I like to do that because he loved it. And that doesn't necessarily mean I'll do something, but in this case, it was... I went, yep, I love it.
What about Fly Me to the Moon? That's a very popular song.
I put Fly Me to the Moon on there. Everyone and their dog and their cat and their mouse and their goat will do Fly Me to the Moon, but they all do it the up-tempo way that Sinatra ended up doing it on that Sands album with Count Basie. My theory, which might be complete, absolute rubbish, but I had a theory that because Sinatra, as opposed to Tony Bennett, who in fact was Sinatra's favourite singer, Tony Bennett probably didn't drink and smoke as much as Sinatra, so he retained that beautiful Italian tenor, vibrato and richness. He still has it, Sinatra kind of didn't have that as long in his career, and of course his acting took over, but his voice, even though he still had the main machinery to do it, he didn't have that holding the long notes with that beautiful, the Italian tenor thing had gone by then. So I think that by doing Fly Me to the Moon, which had always been a ballad, my theory is that maybe he picked it up so that it was kind of easier to sing. Or I might be completely wrong and it might have been a Count Basie decision, or both of their decision for other reasons, but that's my story. And I think most people that do that song do that version. So I wanted to go back to, again, Tony Bennett did it the old slow way. And so you can probably tell, I mean, everyone knows I love Aretha Franklin, and that goes without saying. She that's my life. But out of all of those, more jazz-oriented singers, Tony Bennett for me is it. So Tony Bennett's version did it. So we listened to that, the tempo of it, because everyone knows the song, and put it away, and then we did it ourselves.
We're talking about the Renee Geyer album Swing, on which she turns Paul Kelly into a crooner.
I did.
On Coming Home Baby.
Well, Paul always does say that, you do get me to do things that I would never normally do, and I don't know why that is, but, and my answer always is because I ask, no one else is game enough to ask him. But he's a good friend, and I've sung multitudes of his songs, which we talked about before. There's probably enough to do a whole tribute album to Paul, which probably is not a bad idea. But I've been on his albums and he's been on my albums, but I thought on this kind of an album, Paul's not known, he's known more for his songwriting than as a singer. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to have him on this and for people to hear that part of his voice, you know? So when they hear it, he's really in croon mode. I mean, he sings so beautifully on this. And it's a song called Coming Home. And it just works. So I sent it to him with, you know, hand in mouth, because he's not afraid to be honest, and he loved it, and as he loves the album. So he said, walk through that storm with your head held high, and don't worry what anyone says because you've got a beauty here. So I'll take his advice.
When you listen to the song for the first time, and if you didn't know it was Paul Kelly, I don't think the average Paul Kelly fan would even recognise it.
Well, it's written on the listing, that duet with Paul Kelly, and other than that, I think they eventually would, but not at the very beginning. But when you know that it's him and you hear it, you go, oh, but it's beautiful though. You know, it's you know, he croons, he can croon.
Alfie is such a classic song.
Ever since I was 13 years old and saw Michael Caine, when I fell in love with Michael Caine too. Michael Caine, not Michael Caine. Yeah, he was Alfie. Yeah. It wasn't Sidney Poitier. That was To Sir With Love, which is another great song, which I used to do, which could have been on this album. It wasn't. Michael Caine and Lulu and that movie, and then boom, the title track, which I absolutely have adored since I saw the film. And it just never, I mean, we've done it live, but I've never, it's never seemed to fit anywhere on any album. I've never thought of recording it or re-recording it, because all my favourite singers have sung it, and I've thought, what can I do to add to that? You know, it's already been done by the greats. So, but on this one, I thought, give it a go, and you know, you don't have to put it on there in the end if you don't want to, and it turned out really good.
And what a wonderful world too. I mean, it's one of those songs that you know, a lot of people have covered over the years. You've done a completely unique version.
That our version is probably the only track on the album that doesn't have a lot of horns on it. And actually, Paul Williamson has an ongoing jam session with this incredible legend Gil Askey, who lives here now, who was Michael Jackson and Diana Ross's arranger for many years for Motown. He now lives in Australia. He's in his 80s, or I think he just turned 80. And Paul Williamson's in a band with him because he plays trumpet. And they have an ongoing thing at this place called the Clay Pot every Sunday in St Kilda. And I went one time to hear them, and they did What a Wonderful World, and I just remember from then thinking, what a great song. And I think another nudge from Paul Williamson, and on it went.
And another beautiful song, My Funny Valentine.
Yeah, we do that live, and when I do it live, I do it with just bass, nothing else, bass and voice, and it seems to work. Of course, double bass, acoustic bass. So, woo, how's that for a? No, it'll stop. That's it. That's a message on my phone, but what a I was going to put that stripper theme on this album too. Down, 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 down. It'll probably be in the live version, except I won't be taking anything off except peeling a banana or something. But so what were we?
We're talking about My Funny Valentine.
My Funny Valentine.
Yeah.
It's one that everybody's done, but no one's ever done it with just the bass. But then, of course, on this version, we've brought the horns in as pads. Paul Williamson Paul Williamson did most of the stuff, and a guy called Dave Palmer did some of the tracks, but I think Paul did this one, and it's just beautifully padded, and the notes he decides to pick as the chord for the pad is just so beautiful. So it's basically just bass and a little bit of, other instruments here and there.
Somewhere, another great movie theme.
Well, West Side Story, Bernstein, that song, that arrangement is very unusual arrangement. So I think that would probably be the toughest one for a non-musician to listen to, and that if they love that, then they've got my eternal gratitude, because that one is arranged in such a way that it starts very slow and then it goes into a bit of a jazz sort of solo thing with keyboards, and it's actually quite a nice background, that thing.
The
Keyboards,
theme from Renee.
yeah, keyboards and saxophone, tenor saxophone. So it's all listed on the credits, who played what on what track, and but that song is a very intricate arrangement that I'm quite proud of, and the boys just excelled at arranging horn-wise.
Well, 25 albums is that's quite a catalogue you've built up there.
Yeah, and it ends with Man's World, which the shows all end with, but with a difference. Oh, boy, am I popular today. Swing. Everybody wants Swing.
Swing is the name of the album.
Paul Cashmere, he knows what he's talking about too. If he likes it, I'm in.
You heard it here. Thanks, Renee, for joining us here at Noise 11.